What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Zorro. Last time, we saw 9-year-old Temüjin standing on the desolate steppe, watching the dust cloud of his own tribe disappear. They had taken every animal, every scrap of food, and left his mother, 2 wives, and 7 young kids to basically freeze and starve to death. The wind was brutal, slicing at their faces. Hungry wolves were howling in the distance. His mother, Hoelun, was clutching the baby, her tears long gone. This wasn't just abandonment. This was a death sentence. Here's the crazy twist of fate. The location where they were dumped was right on the border between the open steppe and the heavy forest. This border zone was usually a battleground. Nomads, called the forest tribes wild men of the mountain, and the hunters called the herders steppe bumpkins. But now, this despised no man's land was their only salvation. Hoelun gritted her teeth. She led the 7 kids, and Yesugai's second wife, Sochigel, and plunged straight into the forest, heading toward the sacred mountain in the Mongol heartland, Burkhan Khaldun. And yes, that's the very same place where the elf-like hunter, Jayachi Uday, who gave Temüjin the sable pelt in part 1, was from. This connection was clearly written in the stars. On the wide open steppe, you can spot someone miles away. But the forest? It's dark. The shadows flicker, and the wind whistles through the trees like a ghost train. Steppe people, used to the wide plains, got the jitters just walking in there. The first summer was okay. They could scavenge onions and snare a few rabbits in the fall. But the steppe winter? It doesn't just arrive. It hits you like a betrayal. The little rivers froze solid with a cracking sound. Wildlife either hibernated or fled. Pine needles turned the color of death, and the ground, covered in golden leaves one day, was buried under heavy snow the next. Nights dropped to tens of degrees below zero. The wind cut off the cliffs like a razor blade, turning toes purple overnight. The wolves howled incessantly. Even the moon looked frozen, hanging pale and brittle in the sky. In this hellish environment, Hoelun, with 8 kids to feed, counting Sochigel's 2 sons, forced them to survive. She taught the children the skills of the forest people, how to fish by weaving nets from horsehair and dropping them through holes in the ice, how to hunt birds by setting snares on branches, luring mountain chickens with berries, and pulling the string tight. The starving children learned faster than anyone. They also cut down trees and built barricades on the cliff trails, terrified that their cruel uncles from the Temüjin tribe would ride in to finish the job. Let me paint you the picture. It's 4 in the morning, pitch black. Hoelun's hands are cracked and bleeding from the cold as she digs for a root called wild onion. It's tiny, maybe the size of a thumbnail. She pops the whole thing into the mouth of the youngest, Temüjin, without taking a bite for herself. Temüjin and Kasar are swooshing across the cliffs on their makeshift skis. They hunt desperate, lone wolves, skinning them for meat, and rubbing the wolf fat onto their siblings' torn felt socks to keep the frostbite away. At night, 9 people crammed into one bark shelter. The fire was just wet wood, spitting smoke that made everyone's eyes stream. But no one dared sleep too far from the warmth. They were terrified of freezing to death by morning. Every day, Hoelun repeated one sentence, her voice hoarse but metallic. We didn't do anything wrong. How dare they abandon us? Live! You must live! She swallowed her rage and her sorrow, putting everything she had into feeding her children. But 9-year-old Temüjin was different. By day, he dug for roots with his brothers, but by night, he secretly hid near the fire, using a red-hot iron skewer to scratch names onto a piece of birch bark, the names of every person who had abandoned them. The birch bark was tough, and his frozen hands were split open. Blood dripped onto the bark. He wiped it with snow, and he kept carving. There's a fierce Mongol proverb, "The teeth in your mouth eat meat, but the teeth in your heart eat men." In those sub-zero winters on Burkhan Khaldun, the cold forged Temüjin's teeth of the heart, sharpening them faster than any steel blade. Guys, I'm getting chills telling you this. From age 9 to 16, 7 brutal winters, Temüjin survived in that ice and snow, swallowing his weakness and chewing his hatred down to the bone. So, 7 years later, Temüjin finally emerges from Burkhan Khaldun. What form will his revenge take? And how will he use the lessons of those 7 deadly winters to demand blood debt from the very people who cast him out? The most brutal act is about to begin. If you found Temüjin's transformation captivating, hit the like button and let me know in the comments how you think he's going to get his revenge. And as always, subscribe and ring that bell for part 4. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.